I'm Tim Gordon with your weekly recap. We're going to catch you up on some of the biggest stories of the week. And we begin on the Portland waterfront, where this week crews kicked off the demolition of the old Centennial Mills building with a bang. It all started on Monday when crews used explosives to bring down the water tower on top of the historic burned out warehouse after it caught fire earlier this month. The plan was to have that water tank drop directly down so the building walls would stay up and limit the amount of flying debris, although KGW was sent several images of shattered windows from nearby buildings.
All the glass, there wasn't much we could do. You can't move either building. You have to do the detonated charges. Everything worked out as they had designed. Explosive charges went off as they designed. The water tower went straight down into the structure.
And then piece by piece, the walls of the century-old former flour mill started tumbling down. The city saying the initial demolition is nearly complete, well ahead of schedule. And KGW's Harley Coldiron spoke with neighbors who watched the demolition process unfold.
A lot of memories, seeing things as I see things as they used to be.
The demolition of the Centennial Mills building is bittersweet for Daryl Watkins.
Then I would go down, get everything running, and then go down and open up specific bins to make specific types of flour for different bakeries that we had contracts with.
Day after day, for over a decade, he worked at the mill, mixing flour and making various creations.
I can remember there's that brand new fire escape when that got put on about 5 years before it shut down.
But in just a short 24 hours, the building has gone from standing tall to losing a water tower. Now nearly the entire top half of the building is gone.
There were a lot of people going in and out of that building, and it was not safe, and it's good to see it come down.
KGW live streaming the demolition all day as crews with a Eugene-based contractor used a high-reach excavator to tear down walls, all while spraying it down with water to avoid dust, debris, and asbestos flying everywhere.
You see how much the walls shake. It looks like a good stiff wind would take it down at this point.
Throughout the day, we caught shocking video showing the 116-year-old walls swaying back and forth. While the controlled detonation was largely successful, KGW obtained several images of shattered windows from a nearby building. In one case, chunks of glass even flew across the condo. The city said the contractor hoped to have the building at half its height in 2 weeks, but this video shows they may be well ahead of schedule.
And I expected there'd be a bit of a delay, but I'm really shocked to see them going at it.
Harley Coldiron reporting there. Portland Fire is still in control of the building because it's an active crime scene with human remains likely in the rubble. Portland Fire isn't sure exactly when they'll be able to go in to try to retrieve those remains. And Amtrak says service running through the area near the Centennial Mill building resumed this week, although it's not clear when the Fields Park could reopen. In Longview, crews are beginning to dismantle the chemical tank that ruptured at the Nippon Dynawave paper mill in May, killing 11 workers and injuring several others. And as Devin Haskins reports, it's the next step toward a potential reopening.
The work being done this week is all in an effort to reopen the plant eventually. We learned this week that the state of Washington has issued a permit for the company to tear down that one tank, but also install 2 temporary tanks here on site. A memorial outside the front gates of the Nippon Dynawave plant remembers the 11 workers who lost their lives on the morning of May 26th. Inside the gates, work has now begun to dismantle 3 out-of-service tanks, including the tank that catastrophically failed, causing hundreds of thousands of gallons of a caustic chemical, white liquor, to spill out. According to a permit issued on August 17th by the Washington State Department of Ecology, Nippon Dynawave plans to install 2 temporary bulk liquor storage tanks to prepare for a future mill startup. The mill has been closed down since the incident. Each tank would hold a different liquid in the paper pulp process. One would hold white liquor that would hold about 650,000 gallons, the other for black liquor that will hold 450,000 gallons. The permit filing says the tanks will be used for up to 3 months. Each tank will have safety measures in place to contain any spills and be inspected daily. For more than a month after the fatal tank failure, several state agencies remained on site to monitor the cleanup efforts and mitigate any ecological risks. Labor and Industries has an ongoing investigation into the incident, and according to an article in the Seattle Times, this work will not have an impact on that investigation. The union representing some of the workers at the plant says the work being done is encouraging. A representative for the union, Joshua Estes, wrote to KGW in an email saying it demonstrates tangible progress toward a potential restart and gives us reason for cautious optimism. He went on to say, however, it would be premature to treat this alone as a guarantee that the plant will restart or as a complete answer about its long-term future.
Nippon Tidal Wave says this work should take a matter of weeks, but didn't elaborate on a timeline on how long it would take to fully reopen the plants. In Longview, I'm Devin Haskins, KGW News.
Well, one person is dead and 2 others are injured after a shooting in southeast Portland near the base of the Tillicum Crossing. This happened just before 3 o'clock Saturday morning on Southeast Water and Carruthers Street. Witnesses say a group of young people were gathered in an area for an impromptu dance party. Police found 2 injured people at the scene. A third person was later found dead inside a gas station about 1.5 miles from the original shooting scene near Southeast Main and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
I mean, we were going to come down over there, and then there was police tape. And then when we come up this way, there's more police tape. And then we come even further, there's more police tape.
On Wednesday, Portland police identified the victim as 23-year-old Titus Road of Vancouver. They have not said what led up to the shooting, and they've not released any information about possible suspects. Anyone with information should contact police. Well, police in Portland say a 16-year-old from Vancouver died and another teenager was hurt when they tried to jump off a moving freight train. This was near the railroad bridge in St. John's just before 9 o'clock Monday night. Police say it appears the teens climbed onto a train that was stopped on the Vancouver side of the Columbia River. Their names have not been released. Caught on camera, someone kicked in the front door of a popular coffee shop in southeast Portland, shattering the glass and leaving customers inside shocked. This was at Heretic Coffee on Tuesday. And in this case, instead of being upset, the owner was concerned about the man who did it. He says the person seen in the video was one of 10,000 who have received free meals from the coffee shop. It's a program that started when federal funding cuts slashed money for SNAP.
We were trying to run them down to make sure that their foot was okay. So the entire foot went through the glass, you know? We want to make sure that they're not bleeding somewhere like crazy.
I had to go over there tomorrow because I woke up broke and hungry. I wouldn't think twice of it, you know? I've never had any issues there.
The shop has already raised more than $10,000 for repairs and upgrades, but you can still donate to help their SNAP fund or help pay the bills of the many volunteers who work at that shop. The jury has awarded 2 teenagers more than $500,000 after they were stuck upside down on a ride at Oaks Park for nearly a half an hour. That verdict came down following a short civil trial. The 13 and 14-year-olds were celebrating their 8th grade graduation in June of 2024 when the Atmosphere ride got stuck in the upside down position. This was a big story back then. The teens were among 9 passengers who sued Oaks Park and the manufacturer of the ride. The rest settled before going to trial. We spoke to the father of one of those teens following the verdict.
We wanted answers and we wanted people to understand that this can happen to anybody, and it does happen to people, to real families. And the effects of this is something you have to live long after the ride. The ride is not over when it's turned off, you know, especially when you're stuck upside down.
In response to the verdict, Oaks Park said in part, quote, "While we agreed that the ride should have not gotten stuck, we are grateful that all the riders are safe and this incident is now resolved," end quote. Well, there's a big change for people living in their vehicles in the Rose City, with the city set to eliminate RV parking at a tiny home village in North Portland. We're talking about this shelter village off North Portland Road. The city pays for the site, which houses 90 shelter units and 70 RV parking spots. City budget cuts forced 2 different tiny home villages to close, so the city wants to move shelter pods here, and that means closing the RV parking.
But I mean, they brought me here, you know, telling me that if I didn't come here, that they were going to just tow my stuff out on the street, and they kind of coerced me into coming here, and now they're telling me that I have to give up my RV.
The city tells us they will start tagging RVs for removal this fall, and that some people may be offered one of the incoming tiny homes. A Portland woman says she waited months for rental assistance through the state Medicaid program, but that help, it never came.
I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn, who to turn to. I'm just stranded.
About a year ago, Stephanie Potter lost her job. She called 211 and they told her to apply for rent assistance through the Oregon Health Authority's health-related social needs program. She did, but says she never received a call back about her application. And while she waited, she stopped paying rent. Now she faces eviction in September.
I'm ready to have a meltdown. I'm freaking out. They keep telling me somebody will call you, somebody will call you. Nobody ever calls. So I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to go, how I'm going to get there. I have no car, I have no money.
The nonprofit delivering those Medicaid housing benefits in Portland, Health Share of Oregon, once faced an 18-month backlog processing these applications. But they tell us that backlog has now been cleared and that they will reach out to Stephanie about her application. You can learn more about this program and Stephanie's story in our full report, up now on KGW.com. Some Washington County residents, I should say, are pushing back on a plan that's in the works to bring more jets to the Hillsborough Airport, with those in the flight path pleading for city leaders to put a stop to it. The company Sky Harbor wants to build private aircraft hangars to house up to 30 jets on more than 30 acres of leased land at the airport. Hillsborough's Planning Commission gave the proposal the green light earlier this year. Now the city is considering an appeal. Community members showed up to the city council meeting Tuesday night, expressing concerns over everything from noise to air pollution.
Morphing something for big jets that are going to be mostly empty most of the time when they're zooming by. Picking up somebody from where Medford, it's like this is not their toy backyard.
Sky Harbor argues their proposal fits well within city code.
Compare this to a parking garage. You have a parking garage adjacent to this, okay? And when that is approved, you are looking at the operational characteristics of a parking garage. It's the same type of review. You don't look at tailpipe emissions.
The city still has some time to look over the information from this hearing and decide whether to approve the appeal, halting the project for now, or deny the appeal, allowing it to move forward. We'll let you know what they decide. A heads up now for TriMet riders with some major changes going into effect this weekend. Starting Sunday, August 23rd, the Max Green Line will no longer run into downtown. Instead, it'll only run between Clackamas Town Center and Gateway. Riders headed downtown from Gateway will have to transfer to a westbound Blue or Red Line train. That'll make for a longer commute for many.
We've always adjusted to whatever TriMet does, but this one with the Max is really disheartening with the Green Line not servicing downtown anymore.
The Green Line is just one part of TriMet's latest service cuts. The agency will also change 34 bus routes and eliminate 2 lines altogether, citing low ridership. TriMet says it needs to cut at least 10% of service by 2028 to avoid a projected fiscal cliff. TriMet expects to propose more service changes later this fall. Well, some people who might not have met the income threshold to pay Multnomah County's Preschool for All tax may have still had money taken out of their paychecks. It appears nearly 7,000 taxpayers are potentially owed up to $4.3 million in total in refunds dating back to 2021 and 2022. But because these people didn't file returns, the county doesn't actually know if they are due a refund or not. Turns out officials became aware of this issue through what they call routine compliance work. During a meeting this week, the county's CFO blamed the unique program requirements and steep learning curve.
And there was a transition period in terms of being aware of the tax, communication around tax. We did a lot in coordination with Metro and the city to improve communication around the tax. It's based on if you meet a threshold, right? And so it's not automatically you earn income, you're automatically subject to withholding like state income tax.
Commissioners also appear ready to delay an increase on the Preschool for All rate. They'll vote on that next week. This comes as models from Portland State University show the enrollment need is lower than initially forecast. To Ridgefield now, where a proposal to make big changes to the city's waterfront has many pushing back. The Port of Ridgefield released a plan earlier this year that showed 250 to 350 housing units could be built on the site, along with a nearly 60-room hotel. Now some neighbors are worried about the scale of the plan and what it would mean for traffic, river access at a nearby wildlife preserve. The Preserve Ridgefield Waterfront Group have gathered over 3,500 signatures to get the port to reevaluate.
This is what makes Ridgefield special, the wildlife refuge and our waterfront. And if we overdevelop it takes that away, and it's not something that we can ever redo.
Now, in a statement, the port told us, quote, "We understand and share community concerns about minimizing impacts." The port continues to work with the Wildlife Refuge and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to consider potential impacts during the ongoing planning process. The city of Ridgefield will ultimately have to sign off on that plan. The Trump administration is moving forward with plans to repeal the so-called Roadless rule. Established in 2001, it limits road building, logging, and mining on about 45 million acres nationwide, including 2 million acres in Oregon. The U.S. Forest Service calling it a one-size-fits-all rule that creates a barrier, especially when it comes to reducing wildfire risks. Meanwhile, Oregon Wild, a conservation group that works to protect Oregon's wildlands, says more than 99% of public comments submitted last year opposed repealing the rule. A new public comment period is open through September 21st if you want to have a say. New research from Oregon State says a major ocean current system that helps regulate the Earth's climate may be weakening. It's called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or OMOC. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri explains in the latest edition of Environment Northwest.
We hear a lot about El Nino and La Nina weather patterns, but there's one you probably haven't heard of.
AMOC, or the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, is one of the most important currents of the global ocean.
Crystal Bowser, an associate professor at Oregon State University's College of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences, says the current plays a key role in the planet's overall heat budget.
This AMOC is very closely related to the heat budget of the entire planet, so not just the Atlantic, but the entire planet.
As our climate warms, he says models show the AMOC may weaken, and that's when the global waters and the planet warm up, leading to major consequences.
There's different implications. First of all, there would be the sea level. So we know that as the ocean warms, it expands. So that means sea level would rise around the world.
He says a weaker current could also affect other global weather patterns.
As AMOC weakens, for example, we find that monsoons all across Asia, the Asian monsoon, so that's the Indian monsoon, the East Asian monsoons, those monsoons tend to weaken, which has really big implications for the billions of people that live in those regions today.
If that happens, Bowser says the oceans could heat up, speeding up global warming.
All the climate models that we have projected going into the future, this AMOC may be weakening.
To understand how the current has changed over time, scientists are looking thousands of years into the past.
We go to Greenland to drill ice cores, and these Greenland ice cores give us a very detailed record of the climate in Greenland going back in time.
Bowser calls the ice a time machine because Greenland is so cold year after year of snow doesn't melt, preserving layers that can help scientists reconstruct past climate conditions. And while the current is strong right now, scientists are continuing to study it because measuring a current that spans an entire ocean basin is no easy task.
Joe Ranieri reporting there. Scientists found these natural shifts happened about 25 times during the last ice age. That's roughly once every 2,000 years. Researchers are now using ice cores and other data to better understand how the current could change in the future. All right, here's Rod Hill with a look at your weather forecast.
I'm meteorologist Rod Hill talking about your weekend weather forecast, and I always remind you when you're seeing a weather forecast online in any form, it's important to note when that forecast was put down, because especially as we go in 24-hour cycles, weather forecasts can drastically change. So we're putting this one down for you in the 9 o'clock hour of Friday morning going into the weekend. And at this time, a reminder, we still have in gray shading air quality advisories for Wasco, Jefferson, and Crook counties. That's the Dalles, Madras, and Prineville, and also out here in Wallowa County. And that's the way it's been the last couple of days. We will continue to see some air quality indices potentially reach unhealthy in these spots as we go into the weekend as well. The other colors, by the way, the tan color, that's a red flag warning potentially for Saturday with a thunderstorm threat moving out across the eastern areas of our state. And again, the only air quality indices we've seen in the last couple of days, and maybe this continues into the weekend, some unhealthy registers indices in central Oregon, and there's that red unhealthy out in northern Umatilla County. Southern flow pattern will develop potentially thunderstorms on this Friday along the Cascades and help produce a developing thunderstorm threat to eastern Oregon on Saturday. This low spinning offshore will near the Oregon coast Friday overnight going into Saturday morning, and that will play the main role in bringing some low cloudiness and maybe a little bit of moisture falling from the low clouds for your Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is the convective outlook for Friday in the light green tones where thunderstorm activity is at least a potential. That threat area for your Saturday blankets much of Washington and then moves out into eastern areas of our state. Futurecast doesn't show a lot of precip. This is Friday evening, 9 o'clock. Could be some showers in Central Oregon, could be a thunderstorm, but this model not showing a lot of activity. It does a good job of pulling in the low cloudiness that we expect Saturday morning from Seattle down through Portland into Eugene. Here's the see the streamlines going around this disturbance offshore? That's what we're watching. And the energy from that might produce some patchy drizzle for your Saturday, or even a spritzy light shower from time to time. The low cloudiness expected here on the west side to be with us much of the day Saturday at 5 p.m. This is showing Saturday afternoon the green specks, some scattered shower and thunderstorm activity out across eastern Oregon. So here are the 7-day numbers, 83 on this Friday, but we're mainly talking about the weekend. Confidence seems high that we'll have cloudy skies much of your Saturday at any given point, especially in the morning. Could be some traces of light rain get squeezed out of the low cloud deck, 74 the high. Sunday, same chance in the morning, but then the afternoon, any moisture chance ends as we see increasing sunshine. And then we're back into the 80s to start next week.
Thanks to Rod for that, and that is a wrap on your weekly recap. I'm Tim Gordon. Don't forget, you can catch up on the latest headlines anytime on KGW.com, your KGW app, or our YouTube channel.